Strangers Chapter 1. This is bizarre, isn't it?
This made me angry in the cinema, James. I was physically agitated watching this movie. It got right on my tits.
You went to see this first, and you messaged me and said, it's just the first movie again. Now, I had assumed it's like, like the Strangers have this kind of gimmick. It's like their shtick. They, knock on the door, all this stuff. It's like, it's similar. But no, it is literally the same movie again. It's like, it's a remake.
It's the exact same thing, and this is my problem with it. We watched The Strangers, the original, for our show a little while ago, and we did a review on it. So I've literally just watched the first version of this 2 weeks ago or something, in the understanding, because of the Lion Bastard trailer, that this was a prequel. Find out how the Strangers became the Strangers. Bullshit. It's literally the exact same film with a few minor tweaks.
And not as good.
Not as good at all.
I think the mad thing to me is that I feel like there's just a misunderstanding of what was good about that original film. Like that original film is like just terrifying, like the sense of tension and dread you have throughout it. This feels very much like late 2000s remake where it's just like, it just doesn't get it. One of my favorite parts of the original Strangers is that it always feels like the strangers are in control of the situation. Like, even when it looks like someone's escaping, they know exactly where they are. They're just messing with them. Whereas in this, you actually do have them like looking for them, and there's moments where it looks like the people might get away genuinely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, if I'm being fair, if I'm being kind, James, perhaps I would have enjoyed this movie if I hadn't literally just watched the other one. If I didn't have that in my head, it might have felt a bit better.
I wouldn't have, because it's bad. Because it's very bad. It's not even scary.
Yeah, it's shit, you're right.
Yeah, it's dog shit.
Part of my issue with this is I literally didn't like any character. I didn't like anybody in the movie. It was set up so bizarrely. I mean, was the entire town mad people? Because it literally starts with like this horrible town with everybody staring at each other and grunting at each other, and then mechanic guy with think screws with the vehicle, and it's like it was trying to say this is a village of crazy folk. Well, that kind of diminishes the crazy characters in it. If everybody's mental, it makes them less interesting to me.
Well, I'd assume that some of the townsfolk, like I thought that car shop owner will turn out to be the baghead guy or something like that. That was my kind of assumption, but we don't find out. Yeah, it's just so weird. It's setting up some interesting, like I'm curious, this is part one of a 3-part thing.
Is it though? Is it? Do you think we'll get part 2 and 3 based on this shit?
They filmed it already, so it's happening. We're getting it. So like I'm curious to see where it goes, but like this is just... Ugh. And like I think it's unfortunate because there's some moments in it, like when it veers off of the original film, that are good. There's a moment where they're under the house and she puts her hand on a nail. We've seen this scene a million times, but I thought it was like fairly well played. But like even like the setup is just less interesting. It's like this couple who are madly in love going and like they get stopped in this small town and the car breaks down. They have to get a thing. Whereas in the original, there's an awkward situation between the couple because he just proposed and she said no. And it's like, oh, are we even together now? What's happening? And I just found that more fascinating character-wise than anything in this.
And I think, again, going back to the point, if you haven't seen the first one, would you enjoy this more? I don't know, because for me, there were clear scenes where you're watching it and you're thinking, I know exactly what happens next. So, for example, shotgun blast to the face. Yes, we know it's slightly different because it's outside rather than inside. But the second he's going around the corner with the shotgun, oh, there's somebody on the lantern. You know it's not going to be one of them, and he's going to end up killing someone. I knew what was happening.
Like it took 20 minutes for me to realize, oh, this literally is the first movie. Like
I told you, I freaking told you.
But again, also just less interesting. So it's like the Airbnb owner this time, whereas in the original it's like his best friend. So there's an emotional kind of resonance to that. Whereas it's in this, it's like we don't even know this guy. Also, I assume because it looks like the strangers regularly kill the people that stay in this house. So that guy must be in on it, is he not? Or is he just hiring people and they're getting killed and he's just like, oh, I don't know.
Well, 2 points. First of all, you mentioned the emotional kind of issues there. First time I watched the first one, when they both get stabbed at the end, it was like a gut punch. I felt something. On this occasion, I couldn't give a flying fuck. They were stabbed and I just said, oh, well, crack on. Do you know what I mean? No interest at all. In terms of this happening regularly, that's what I think the film's trying to imply, that the entire village is in on this. People know what happens in this house. All the characters were so telegraphed to be in strange town nutters.
Yeah, it's a setup. We can tell it's a setup, like they're being lured here, you know. But it also, like, it sets up earlier, like you see in the diner when they go for lunch, that there's this accountant guy who went missing. She finds that guy's body later on. He also rented this baby. And then you have at the end, again, butchered one of the best lines in that original film, which is the, why are you doing this? Because you were home. It's like, this is just a random, it could have been anybody. Like, this is just a random, we knocked on a door and you answered. Whereas in this is because you were here, which is like the opposite. It's like, we brought you here. So it just doesn't mean anything then at that stage.
Did you stay for the post-credit scene as well?
Yeah, it was awful. It was like so bad. It was like she's in the hospital bed, so she's survived. We see in the original, it's Liv Tyler's character. You know, she screams. It's a jump scare scream. She screams at like someone who finds her, isn't it? Whereas here you see that character wake up in the hospital. The movie ends then, and then the post-credit scene is just cuts back to her at the hospital, and she gets up, and the baghead guy is next to her in the hospital bed. One, how did you not notice that? Two, where do you pick up in the next movie? You know what I mean? Like, is it going to be like, oh, that was a dream? I feel like it's going to be oh, that was a dream kind of thing, you know?
But I think, you know, going back to it, Jake, I can feel I'm an older man, I can feel my blood pressure rising. The thing that really annoys us most about this movie is that I feel like I've been lied to.
Yes.
I honestly feel like the studio has purposefully lied in the trailer. You could argue that we're thick for thinking that, because my wife watching the trailer said, well, this just looks like the same film. And we had a lot of debate beforehand going into it, with me saying, no, it's a prequel.
They said it was a prequel.
But it's not. It bloody isn't. So it really does feel like they've just bullshitted their way around this, because they've probably watched it and thought, you know what, this is cack. This just isn't as good as the first version. How do we get people in seats?
I don't even know if it was that, because the original writer of The Strangers, he's attached to this. He wrote this screenplay. Obviously he did, because he wrote the original movie. So like it's just that.
I mean, let's be honest, he just dusted off the old one, didn't he? And crossed out a few lines, changed some stuff.
Yeah, and made it worse. Like, had he said from the get-go, I want to take that original film and do it again with my modern filmmaking techniques and expand it and do a 3-part thing, I'd have been like, cool, go for that. Let's see that. But I went in here expecting like a prequel with different kills and different scares, and it's just not. And even like some of the best stuff in that original film they don't even try and do. Like when, you know, one of my favorite shots in any horror movie is when she's standing in the kitchen and the baghead guy walks out from the shadow behind her. Yeah. That's the first indication for us that somebody else is in the house, that they've gotten into the house. Whereas in this, it's the generic shadow walks past the camera kind of thing behind her, you know. And then we have, I thought, a shot that was like fine, where she's playing piano and you see him sitting in the thing behind her. I was like, okay, that's a little different, I guess. But like, it just bad. Who decided to do this? Like,
bullshit, mate. Bullshit.
Shite.
I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm getting irritated. Don't go and see this. If you've seen the original, just don't bother.
Just watch the original again.
It's like you've ordered The Strangers from Wish or something like that, and they've sent you the dodgy bootleg bollocks copy.
That's exactly right. That's perfect. Oh god, that's our review of The Strangers Chapter 1. Thank you so much for watching. We do this on every horror movie that comes out in the cinemas. We'll probably be doing it on Chapter 2 and 3 down the road, so let's
like shite.
Yeah. We also have I'll Be Right Back, which is a retrospective review series, and we have a video on The Strangers, the original film, there, so check that out if you want. If you enjoyed this, leave a like, subscribe, and we will see you next time.